Alright guys, Rabbit here today, and we are going to go through the power rankings before the Pro League, because a lot of you guys talked about this a few weeks ago that you'd like to see Gamepedia do some power rankings before the Pro League like we did before Vegas. So that's what we're going to go through today. We've already got them sorted. This video should be going live simultaneously with when they are announced on Twitter. So yeah, we're going to go through what we thought today. Basically, all of us just put our power rankings in a hat and then they were averaged up by Spoons. I'll leave his link in the description box below if you're interested. Support him on Twitter, all that good stuff. Unsung Hero for sure, on the Gamepedia website, all that stuff. If you want to have a link to the pages that I go through today, for example this one, which, you know, this is for the Pro League on Gamepedia, and yeah, I'll link this down in the description box below, and it helps you keep up with all the results and find all the teams and all that stuff if you're kind of new to Call of Duty and you're unfamiliar with this website, as it is a fantastic resource. So yeah, we're going to go through the power rankings for both pools all combined, and we'll probably do this again, I would guess, like after Fort Worth. So we'll have 4 weeks of the Pro League, then we'll have Fort Worth, the roster change period, and then we'll probably go through it again. So like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, and let's get right on with it. So to start off, here are the bottom 6. So firstly we have Denial. This is of course the French team, the former overtime roster. They're sitting here in Division B, and they honestly had a really impressive run at the Pro League qualifier. Now I think these guys may be getting slightly underrated on this list right now. I wouldn't put them too many points high, maybe just 1 or 2. They went 3-3 in Pool C. A very impressive result considering Midnight and 100 Thieves, Spacely's team, Pittsburgh Knights, Accelerator also qualified, are in this pool as well. And then once they went down to the playoff bracket, they lost to Team Sweden, which is justifiable. Then they beat FaZe Black, FaZe Clan in a 3-2 to knock them out of the tournament, and then took down Mindfreak 3-1 to fully qualify. This of course the team of Whalers, Zeeked, Risk, Natche and Breezy. So yeah, don't really want to say too much more on them. I guess most people would have them right at the bottom, but I think they could go above Accelerate, who were also in their pool. So they're in Division B as well. They were also in Pool C and had a pretty impressive run of things. They went 3-3 but with a slightly worse map count than overtime. And then when it came down to qualifying through the bracket, they managed to take down FaZe as well. And then they 3-0'd Sweden to fully qualify. So that was rather impressive considering, I guess they 3-0'd the team that 3-1'd overtime, who are now Denial. So I guess this is justifiable right now. Moving on to UYU. And also just to mention, Denial came top 28 at Vegas. I noted all these down, so I'll go through as we go up the list. Denial came top 28 at Vegas under overtime, of course, but they had Atlas on the team instead of, I believe, Natche. And Accelerate came top 20 at that event with the same team. So then we have UYU, and these guys are probably getting pushed down due to the recent controversy, possibly. People don't really want to see this team do well right now, given the spoof methods thing I talked about a couple of days ago. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below if you are interested in watching it. And yes, currently they're sitting 14th in our average power rankings, but when you look at their results, okay, they're here in Division A. Of course, they're going to be playing this week. Their first match, I think, is against OpTic Gaming, which is going to be a bit tough. But if we look at their Pro League qualifier performance, really solid. 4-2, 14-9 map count. They qualified outright in the pool, so maybe a little bit underrated here again. Then we have Enigma 6, which is a team that I definitely think is underrated right now on this list. I really rated these guys, and yes, UYU came top 16 at Vegas. Enigma 6 came top 32 at Vegas. But that event's 2 months ago, so I don't know how much relevance you can really put to that in today's context, given that when we look at the Pro League qualifier here, Enigma 6 had such a tough pool and they come out 17-6 map count. The only series they lost was a Game 5 round 11 against Reciprocity. They beat FaZe, they beat Sweden, they beat all the other teams they were meant to beat, and it looked really, really good at that event. And my prediction is that Kismet and Frosty especially should just keep getting better as the season goes on. So I rate these guys pretty damn good right now, and I think they should at least be above Red Reserve and probably Heretics in the current state of things. Then of course we have Red Reserves. These guys came top 12 at Vegas, and they are in Pool A, so we will see them in action this week. But didn't they have a tough run at the Pro League qualifier, man? Here they are at 4-2. They do decently well, I guess, in terms of, okay, they went 4-2. They don't quite make it out of the pool at the top because UYU also went 4-2 and they beat Red Reserve in their matchup. But then when we go into the bracket, they get 3-1 by Spacely's team. Then they do win 3 series in a row, but god damn was it a tough one. They beat Fact Revolution relatively convincingly. Against G2, they had to come through a Game 5 round 11, where of course Rated got his Annihilator with only 1 kill on the board in round 11, and that helped them win the game. And then they beat down Team Sweden, which is kind of what you'd expect. But, you know, for a team of this caliber, I can't really see them getting any higher than 12 right now. They came top 12 at Vegas, and then this recent performance they've had, yeah, I don't really rate these guys that highly right now. I think this is about right. Then we have Heretics. So Heretics actually higher than Red Reserve, which I guess might surprise some people. But given their Pro League qualifier performance, you gotta respect it. These guys are in Pool B. And yeah, at the PLQ, these guys crushed it, man. They qualified outright for the Pro League. The only series they lost was to Team Envious. They beat G2 in a Game 5, of course, where Lucky hit that crazy snipe and Metals beamed Methods, I think, maybe off the Jet head glitch. So yeah, that was a memorable one. And 17-6 map count, you can't argue against this right now. They were looking really good. Players like Looney saying they were arguably the most impressive team at the Pro League qualifier. And yeah, that goes a long way. So Heretics right now above Red Reserve, I think is very justified in the current state of things, even though they did come top 20 at Vegas. But as I said, maybe not the biggest deal nowadays when we're a little bit further down the line. So then we have Gen.G Esports. Now this is the team, of course, the old Space League team who were on straight ripping at Vegas when they came top 8, and then they went to the Pro League qualifier, and honestly, they had a pretty tough time of things initially. They were here in Pool C. They went 3-3. The reason why they didn't sign with an organisation before is because they were super confident, of course, we're going to make the Pro League, get a better offer than the contract we would be signing now. But wow, this was a tough run of things for them. They went 3-3 with overtime and XLG, and you got to feel bad for Pittsburgh Knights because all 5 of these teams qualified. So that's tough for Pittsburgh and Mesa, of course. But when Space League went down to the bracket, they just romped through it, really. They beat Tater Mines 3-0, they 3-1'd Red, and then 3-0'd Mindfreak to qualify for the league. And also their last 2 series of pools, they also won. They were 1-3, of course, and they win 5 series in a row to qualify, 15-2 map count over the last few series, so you can't really argue against that right now. Looking like a very solid squad indeed, definitely above all the teams below them, I think, at the current state. So next up we have 100 Thieves, and this is a super controversial one right now because I don't think many people know exactly where to place this team, because yes, they've made this recent roster change. Pharaoh's out the team, Priester is in the team, and probably have been looking a little bit better online as a result of that. But, you know, the average here was 9th. I was kind of inclined to put them a bit higher. A lot of people would put them a bit lower right now. And I think they're a solid squad, but honestly, I guess with all the talent in the world, they haven't really made it work, and there's nothing to prove that they have that capability just yet. They came top 12 at Vegas, of course, but that's a while ago now. They did have a relatively solid PLQ as well. They went 4-2 to qualify, but only a 13-11 map count. They kind of lumbered through it. And yes, I don't know where you guys would place these guys. I think it's a really interesting situation right now for 100 Thieves, where exactly you slot them into power rankings, because I saw I Hold Shift, he had them down at 15th in his, which I thought was a bit too much, but, you know, it's arguably quite difficult to put them any higher than 9th. So I think this is a pretty reasonable placing overall. Then if we move onwards and upwards, we have Reciprocity. This is the European guys, of course, with Den. So Tommy, Wuskin, Shawnee, Dens, and Zed. Cannot forget that man. And yes, Reciprocity, decent Vegas. They came top 12, they had a decent run, they beat FaZe, they ended up losing to Evil Geniuses, and then the Pro League qualifier, it was such an up and down weekend for them. Didn't really know what to think of it, really, because they 3-0'd Sween, 3-0'd FaZe, 3-0'd Project 18, and then somehow lose to, well, I mean, not the worst 2 teams, but 5th and 7th in the division. How the hell are you getting 3-0'd by Divine? Interesting for sure. And they beat Enigma 6 as well, they were looking fantastic, so a really weird situation for them. If they don't lose those 2 upsets right now, these guys are probably higher on the list, put it that way, because if they'd have gone 6-0 here, beating the teams they did, that would have been super impressive. But this niggling feeling in the back of your mind that they can lose and they can implode to any team on any particular day is a little bit worrying, but at least the potential is there, and that's why I said on the 1v1 show a while ago, if I had to choose between Reciprocity and Red Reserve as who's more likely to win an event right now, I'd go Reciprocity, because that potential seems to be higher at the current point, because, you know, Red Reserve haven't really shown me too much so far in this game. So Reciprocity sitting there at number 8, I think that's a pretty reasonable standing as well. And then we have Midnight Esports coming in at number 7. So this may be a controversial one again, because I don't really think people know exactly where to place these guys. They came at top 40 at Vegas, and I think it was a very similar squad, if not exactly the same team. And yes, this time in the Pro League qualifier, they just demolished people. They went 6-0 in the Pro League qualifier, no problem at all, 18-6 map count, just crushed everyone out the park, 3-1, 3-0, 3-1. You know, they had a 3-2 versus Accelerate, 3-2 versus Overtime, but, you know, their other series weren't particularly close. That 3-0 versus 100 Thieves is definitely a memorable one. And yeah, my theory is that these guys will be pretty damn solid at the start of the league, but over time they will decay. So I think maybe 7th in the power rankings is... It still might be pushing it a little bit. They have been performing very well online as well. But yeah, 6-0 in the Pro League qualifier, the most recent event, you can't really argue against it. I would expect them to slip down the list slightly as the season progresses. But right now, I wonder if you guys think the 7th is a realistic point. Because yes, this is all on current form, obviously. So it would make sense to have these guys pretty damn high. But yeah, I don't know where you guys see them finishing a couple months down the line. Moving on to number 6, we have Evil Geniuses. Now, I don't know what to think about this team because I always seem to underrate them. But when I look at their placings, they came top 8 at Vegas. Then they went 5-1 here in the Pro League qualifier. Very solid pool indeed. 17-7 map count. You know, beat UIU, beat Red Reserve, you know, all these good matches for them. The only team they lost to was Mindfreak indeed. And yeah, it was a really interesting turn of events the way that went down. But Evil Geniuses looking really solid. They've got Revan as coach. I feel like 6 flatters them a bit, to be honest with you. But I don't really know which teams exactly you put above them right here. So it's an interesting one. I feel like Evil Geniuses shouldn't be as good as they are. You know, they've got Vicento now instead of Saints. The ceiling should have gone down slightly, even though, okay, they've also got Exotic, they've got Royalty, of course, you know, Goonjar and Felony rounds out the lineup with Revan as coach. So definitely a very contending squad. But I feel like 6 flatters them slightly. I wonder if you guys feel the same. So moving on upwards, in 5th spot we have Team Envious, baby. Now, they didn't have the best Vegas by any means. They came top 12 at Vegas, I believe. And yeah, it was a tough run for them. They went 6-0 in the Pro League qualifier though. They were the ones to take down Heretics. They didn't lose a single series. A few game 5s against G2 and Heretics, of course. But they romped really through the rest of their series, apart from the one with Giants was a little bit sketchy. But they'd basically already qualified at that point. So 18-5 map count. That's basically the best we saw out of all the pools. Now, I guess you could say that Pool B was the easiest, considering Lightning Pandas were doing horribly. But Envy looking really good, and they've been looking better online lately as well. I think 5th is a pretty justifiable position for them right now, given their prior experience. A team like Midnight, yes, they went 6-0 at the Pro League qualifier, but I guess you would suggest that the experience on that team never being in the Pro League before makes them probably a bit of a lower caliber than Envy, at least one would predict going into it. So then we have number 4th spot, of course, it's going to be Luminosity. Now this is a really interesting one once again, because yes, Luminosity, they came top 4 at Vegas, but we really haven't seen anything from them on land since. And with the teams above them, of course, here that didn't have to go through that Pro League qualifier. So what to predict from them is really difficult indeed. Of course, you've got Gunless, you've got Formwell, you've got John. You're hardly going to be a bad team, but maybe you won't be as competitive as people would expect you to be. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if their true placing is something around 6th, maybe even like, yeah, around there, maybe a little bit lower right now. I think that's where I put them in my personal predictions. But most people seem to keep them as top 4, thinking that the top 4 at Vegas have to be the top 4. But I'm not so convinced right now that Luminosity are going to be that dominant team as yet. They should get better throughout the season because they have players that tend to do that. Or maybe they're a roster change away from being true championship contenders. But as of now, 4th, I think, once again with Evil Geniuses, maybe it does flatter them a little bit, considering what we've seen from them online. Now, I don't know how much you want to take online into account, but, you know, Splyce, eUnited and OpTic still perform really well online. But as of late, Luminosity have been looking very shaky indeed. So maybe that's enough for you to drop these guys down, or you just keep them top 4 because they came top 4 at Vegas. But as I say, that's 2 months ago now. In 3rd spot, we have Splyce. Now, of course, we know who the number 1 spot's going to be, so I might as well just reveal the whole lot right now. OpTic eUnited, Splyce are going to be your top 3 here. And yes, Splyce eUnited is always an interesting one because, yes, Splyce were the team that came by far the closest to beating OpTic. Arguably, some people would say they should have beaten them, but of course should is an interesting term. People say that, you know, should doesn't mean anything if you don't actually do it, which I guess is fair enough. But yeah, so Splyce, could have gone 3-1 up over OpTic, but they had that crazy comeback on that Seaside hardpoint, of course, which I broke down a while ago. So arguably people would say that Splyce were closer to OpTic than eUnited were at the time, given how the finals went. But eUnited did beat Splyce, and our rankings tended to put eUnited relatively quite a bit higher than Splyce at the current time. So be interested to hear what you guys think and how you would rank these teams at the current time. One thing to also point out here is the averages that we gave. So courtesy of Spoons, he put all this stuff together, and as you can see, OpTic were resoundingly number one. Everyone put this out. Basically what he's done here is just averaged the rankings that people gave to the squads and see what they look like. So eUnited actually were quite a way above Splyce in our rankings, even though it's just 2 to 3. So I think they're much closer in skill than this implies. And then Luminosity, Envy were pretty close, and these top 5 were comfortably higher than the rest, with Evil Geniuses next to 7.9. It's kind of what I'm saying. 6 seems to flatter them, but I can't really find any teams that should guaranteed be above EG right now, so it's a bit difficult to say. Then we have Midnight, Reciprocity, 100 Thieves, Gen.G, all super close in terms of the rankings. These could have gone anywhere. The middle of the pack teams are super hard to call right now. Then we have Heretics, Red Reserve, E6, super close once again. Then UYU, Accelerate, and Denial all the way down here at the bottom. And one thing to mention when we talk about the strengths of the divisions, the average placing for a Division A team on this list was 7.75, and the average for a Division B team was 9.25. So in terms of how good each of the pools are, I guess you can use that to say that Division A is definitely the stronger pool on breadth and depth of talent. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Give me your top 16 or top 4 or whatever you're thinking. Leave any thoughts on what I might have said. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.